So let's move on to the topic of neurodiversity, which is something that you're involved in, and I would love to know more about. So I guess the first question is, what is neurodiversity? Why is it important? Why should we be thinking about it?
Neurodiversity is about difference. It's about brains working in different ways. There have been neurodiverse people on the earth for hundreds of years, probably, and what's really essential is just to bring more understanding to that, really, and to bring more patience to that. I think there are heartbreaking stories of people who are treated differently, are judged, ridiculed, made to feel less than. That's because of behavior that's not necessarily their choice. It's just how their brain works. So I'm part of NSEC, which is the Neurospicy Entrepreneur Club.
Great name.
Really great name. Yeah. Started by Jemima Wilcox, who's a great person, very fun to be around. She's a neurodiversity advocate. Neurodiversity is in discussion everywhere at the moment, it feels like. The core of it really for me is about accepting difference and acknowledging that we don't all work the same way, making adaptations so that we can all be working well. I guess to say why it's important for me is, so I had an assessment about 2 years ago now that showed dyslexia, which is why I went for the assessment, because I kind of knew that that's what had been going on for me throughout my life, but it never had a kind of formal, I'd never had a formal assessment. And as a lot of people are saying when they have these assessments, there's this moment of, okay, that's what I've been dealing with. It's not that I'm stupid or slow or, all of these labels and stories. It's that my brain works a bit differently, and I can work with that now. I can bring less self-judgment and build more strategies. I can learn from other people who also live with this and make the best of it. So that's been part of my journey, is realizing, okay, I found that job really difficult. That involved endless paperwork and very little interaction with other people and precision of wording and spelling, because that was a dyslexic's worst nightmare.
And you managed to survive?
Well, not for very long, actually. No, very short-lived, that job. But the story at the time was that there was something fundamentally wrong with me, that I wasn't doing it right. Everybody else seemed to be doing it fine. I just wasn't trying hard enough, or I hadn't found the right formula. It was just a really bad fit for me. And I think fit is something that's, important for us all to consider. What's a good fit for me? Mm-hmm. And that's less about right and wrong and should and shouldn't. It's just what's a good fit? What feels like a good fit?
Yeah, it almost feels like shifting your own perception as inwardly facing, as well as your perception of other people, from, I guess, neurodeficiency to neurodivergence. It must have been such a powerful revelation. But in some ways, I guess where my mind goes, it's quite tragic to think of how far in people's lives sometimes that can be.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to see that there's more conversation around it now, and that I'm sure there's more practical things happening earlier on in people's lives. But it's crazy to think that you could probably reach old age and still not know.
Yeah.
Maybe be even more reluctant to seek that kind of assessment or to believe it.
Absolutely. And I mean, some people maybe have quite a robust sense of self, and they, it doesn't matter either way. They just feel, well, this is who I am and this is what I work with and I have strategies. But for a lot of people, it's, there've been these repeated messages in life that they're not doing it properly. They're not, that they need to be fitting in with a neurotypical way of doing things that just feeds this sense of, not being normal or not being what other people were hoping for. And that's just so undermining. It just can really limit what people think is possible for them.
It's like you're not really, you don't really have the access to the right manual for your brain.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, you're trying to live by a manual that doesn't fit your model of brain.
But what's crazy is that like you don't get given a manual at the beginning. You're like crafting the manual yourself. And in crafting it, you're massively influenced by like the mean of the population. That just makes it really difficult, because you almost need to take like an incredibly personalized approach to crafting a manual for people so they can understand how to best leverage their skills. But then the feasibility of that is really difficult. Again, it kind of comes back to what questions you should be asking yourself.
Also makes me think about the workplace too, though. You know, there are these kind of standard rules in a workplace which don't work for everyone. And I understand most workplaces don't want to tailor a job to the person, and that's not always possible. But I think there is a kind of crisis in a lot of workplaces of people not putting up with things that don't work for them anymore, and workplaces needing to be a bit more flexible and needing to make some more accommodations for people so that they get the best out of everyone.
But what strikes me about it is oftentimes the measures that you would need to implement to benefit someone who has certain neurodivergences tend to be ones that actually benefit the broader population.
Yes, sir.
Then it becomes a no-brainer, surely.
I know. That's what's wild about it, you know. Needing more breaks. We could all use, the option to have another break. That's good for everyone.
The option, absolutely. So it's like, again, it's about freedom. Or control, I guess, really is the thing there. So how is society adapting? How are our attitudes shifting? What's the progress that you can see at the moment?
I guess the fact that it's being talked about so much more is great. From the perspective of learning and awareness. Understanding what people need and what behaviours could show that something is about neurodiversity rather than about something else. It's back to this assumptions thing. We make a lot of assumptions about someone's behaviour, and there could be multiple reasons why somebody behaves in a certain way, and we're responsible for our behaviour. I'm not saying we should excuse behaviours that don't work for people, or that things shouldn't be highlighted if they're a problem. But just great that these discussions are happening and there's more understanding about characteristics, I guess.
Yep. Again, it kind of feels like it comes back to discussions as the first good step.
Because somebody, autism, for example, there's a spectrum, and one person with autism is different from another person with autism. It's back to that discussion of, okay, what does that person need, and what does their life look like?